Can you hear me? Yep. Perfect. My name is Hohensee. It is an honor to be here. I started out my career in outdoor education as a backpacking guide in the Sierras here in California. And after I went a long time. I was into my mid-20s between hitchhiking and a backpacking guide, and I finally decided that I wanted to have a bed. You know, and it also really limits your relationship options when you don't have a mattress. And I thought it might be time to grow up. And I remember sitting, I was living at this point up on the mountaintop of Mendocino in Northern California, and making a decision about whether I wanted to live a life that truly was restorative. The actual third principle of natural capitalism, that it's restorative, that it does no harm, that it actually heals all the things around me. And while I did that, I would know that the larger systems in my life were going to be destroyed. That as I go to the Sierras and go backpacking, each year I saw more smog creeping up from the San Joaquin Valley. And more pavement. As I drove up there and saw that. And I could go live a life that really walked my talk purely. And knew that that which I loved was being destroyed. Or I could choose to go live in the midst of that world and do everything I could to try to change it, and in the process know that I was participating in the destruction by driving a car and taking an airplane and using a computer. You know, I did a lot of soul searching around that and decided that really my calling was to go sit in the belly of the beast and to try to turn it, and I had to humbly admit that I was making negative impacts along the way the rest of my life. And so that's how I started out my career. So wanting to fix the problem, I moved to Los Angeles. And through a very interesting turn of events, I ended up working in corporate finance. I cut my hair and bought a suit and went into a temp agency and said I could do anything to get a job. And they gave me some tests and sent me home and called me up and said, "Can you do accounts payable?" And I was like, "Sure." They gave me the address, I hung up the phone, I called some people. Within the first month, I saved them $10,000 and then started a career that went on for a long time, where I loved corporate finance. It was like an agile work problem with real money. And in my previous life as a backpacking guide and an activist, I had done my civic engagement by changing myself to things and complaining about corporations as the problem. And what I found out was that the folks there on the other side of the table weren't equal. They, based on their paradigm, they were doing the best they could to make the world a better place. So to make a better world for their children, to try to help these companies to survive. That it wasn't a right, wrong, bad, evil problem. There was a bigger issue there about paradigm and how we understood value. And so that became pretty interesting to me. That there was a point where corporate finance, especially during the rollicking 80s when we had junk bonds and a lot of other things going on, just became unacceptable. I remember going to the credit committee with a deal where we were looking to finance non-citizens in Texas for automobiles at rates that I thought were usury. And so, you know, we looked at the numbers, and I looked at the credit committee, and they're going, "Well, this looks like a slam dunk." And I said, "This is usury. And they were, you know, back in those days, you actually smoked cigars, and it was all guys, and they're like, "Oh, you got me kidding." And so I just quit. I basically kind of packed up my bags, I went in and said, "I'm going to go quit." And I went to try to figure out where it was that I was going to fit in the world with my skills to try to make that difference that I had been dreaming of back when I was at a mountaintop in Mendocino. I tried public school teaching, and I didn't fit at all. I was way too entrepreneurial. I worked a long time in nonprofits in Los Angeles with teenagers. We actually built programs where 100,000 kids a year would take on programs to heal some part of their neighborhood. It's something I'm very proud of, and what I can tell you is that it's just a small, good start. There's 1.5 million kids in Los Angeles County. It's bigger than the population of some states. And so while 100,000 is a good number, and it was a good start, it wasn't making the kind of step jumps that I was concerned about. As I went on my annual backpacking trip to the Sierras, I still, every year, saw the smog coming up higher and longer and creating more problems in the Sierras. I was scared. In fact, I declared myself do, primarily natural capitalism, is work with government agencies and corporations. Last year, our client base represented 3% of US GDP. And those corporations span the laggards who are just wondering what sustainability is, and there's so much waste sitting around inside their value chain, and you feel really smart because you're picking up $100 bills off the ground. And to me, that seems like an important task, to be able to open up people's eyes to the possibility that there's a different way of doing business that value to owners and value to employees and value at the end of the day is more than just financial value, that we all value a lot more than that. And we also spend a lot of time with the folks on the leading edge, the leading edge, trying to think of what's the next big strategy. You know, how do we eliminate, if the federal government is going to require flame retardants on tents and sleeping bags, and we have an outdoor products company, and we're trying to be completely sustainable, and the federal government is requiring us to use toxins, how do we deal with it? What I can tell you from working with companies big and small, leaders and laggards, is that I have not seen a company that even comes close to being sustainable. Not even close. If you think of, again, that third principle of natural capitalism about restoring human natural capital, there's some companies that are doing a lot less bad than others. But there's no companies, I can take a look at my own lifestyle. You know, I have a net zero house. My airplane travel here was offset. I took BART to the closest place and walked down here. And still my carbon footprint is about 1,200 pounds a year, which in my world is unacceptable. So that's where I'd like to start the segue into what does that mean for you as a leader. My assumption is the reason you came to Presidio is because you want to make a difference. You didn't come here just to get an MBA because you can get an MBA in a lot of places. The reason you would pick this institution is because you have a desire and a destiny to be able to shift the tide. And I thank you, because we need you to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about what does that look like, and here are a couple of ideas that I've learned from a whole bunch of failing. It's really important to have courage. It's really easy to have courage when things are going well. It's really easy to have courage when people like you. It's really easy to have courage when everything's on an upswing. When you really need courage is when things are going down, and when people hate you, and when you're failing. That's when it's really important to have courage. That's when things go really bad is when you're going to know what your mettle is. Don't shy away from those times, but pay attention to how you react. I would say rule one, don't take anything personally. Because when you do that, you're not going to be an effective leader. Another thing that I recommend is that you figure out what your bottom line is. There's going to be some things that are completely unacceptable to you. There's going to be an awful lot of things that you don't like. You're not going to be able to fix it all. What is it that is critically important that you cannot allow to happen? And it's going to be unique and individual to you. So figure out what your bottom lines are, and then figure the rest of it's negotiable. Choose your battles wisely. There are more things to fix than you're going to be able to fix in your life. I guarantee it. Since the beginning of written history, humans have been striving to try to fix huge and small problems. We're going to continue to do that as part of being human. But pick your battles carefully and know which ones you can let go of so you can focus what is your piece you want to move this year or this month or this lifetime, and focus on that instead of getting distracted and watered down, fighting, chasing windmills that really aren't as a priority and are not yours to fix anyways. Know what someone else's battle is to fix. This one isn't mine. That's yours. That's this organization's. Figure out where you fit and what your part is in the orchestra of the change so that you can be powerful at paddling upstream there. Keep your eye on the prize. It's very easy to get distracted. It's incredibly easy to get distracted. Figure out what's the important piece that you're trying to move now, either again this day, this week, this month, or this year. And make sure that that keeps happening, because the demands on your attention and the demands on your leadership are going to distract you and pull you all over the place. So make sure you keep an eye on what it is that you're trying to lead towards. There are going to be times in your career where you are going to have the right to be justifiably angry because you have been, let's see, what's the business term? Screwed. Don't do it. It's a waste of energy. There's nothing that's going to come out of that justifiable anger that's going to change the world for a better place. Keep your eye on the prize. And the last piece I would say in closing is that if you study again through the history of time, there are always things that are onerous and unacceptable. We used to burn wise women. We no longer do that. What we're doing right now with the climate is unacceptable. What we're doing right now with toxins is unacceptable. What we do with workers' rights, the bottom of the pyramid, is unacceptable. It takes 10 calories of energy to produce 1 calorie of food in our current agricultural system. That's unacceptable. And bad. And a vast business opportunity. Don't think, in that whole thing about figuring out you don't have to fix it all, after you've chosen yours, the last piece I'd recommend is that you find a way to cultivate hope. That hope is not a strategy, it's a tactic. You have to find a way to keep hope alive when it makes no sense. You have to find a way to keep hope alive so you can inspire other people. You have to find a way to keep hope alive so that you can get up in the morning and kick butt. Because that's what we need to do.